In the last 2 weeks, in almost all episodes of the IAE show, CIG cut little teaser frames of ships to come into the videos. They were found almost instantly, but only showed so much because they were heavily distorted. I managed to undistort that to a good degree, and 120,000 people saw it, which is mind-boggling to me. And since quite a few asked how I did that, I figured I'd share it. But be warned, it's very, very technical, most might say incredibly boring. But to me it was exciting, like an Easter egg hunt or an episode of Navy CIS, or that scene from Blade Runner.
Enhance. Stop.
So let's tank the retention rate of my channel and dive in. They mainly use two filters, the horizontal scan lines and the also horizontal image distortion, both replicating the effect of analog video technology. The software I'm going to use is called Nuke. It's basically a professional After Effects, but what I'm doing would also work the same in other software. The scan lines are rather easy to fix, and I was not the first on Reddit doing that. You just match the lines they used and either just darken them, that already helps readability a lot, or I used a filter that takes the pixel information from above and below and drags them in basically. I said fixing it earlier, but it's more or less impossible to restore the information lost by these lines. This just helps you read the image. The distortion is more tricky, but I know how the effect works. You generate a noise pattern and then let this noise pattern drive a distortion on your image. That means the brighter your noise pattern, the more the image gets distorted in that area. You can use different colors for different axes to make it more natural, but in this case we want something even simpler. Analog video distorts mostly the same per line, so we just stretch out our noise texture to only really distort on the horizontal axis. And that is the effect. That means if I knew the pattern used to distort the original image by CIG, I would theoretically apply the same effect but invert it and undo the distortion. There would still be some information lost in the process, as you can see in this perfect example, but it would still help a lot. But unfortunately, they released their videos without all the files used to create them, and guessing is also not an option. Analyzing the resulting image is also tricky because even where we can make out a pattern, it's almost impossible to read correctly. These two lines look like they have been distorted the same, but just because they are on the same height now does not mean they have been distorted the same. One could be shifted by just 2 pixels and the other by 20. I don't know. Unless there's something in the image I can say for sure was a vertical line once. There are none here, but there are some straight lines at least. If I make that straight line vertical, without changing the length of these individual spikes in the process, I now have a clearer look how much the image was distorted per line. I could theoretically redraw that pattern as a line. That helps me, but not the computer. So now it gets a little technical. I explained earlier that the brighter the pattern, the more the image gets distorted. So I just need this to be brighter than this. I could draw a gradient, but there's a more accurate way. I use an expression that gives each pixel in my image the brightness of that pixel's own x-coordinate. That means the first pixel has a value of 1, the 100th a pixel of 100. We can't see that because our monitors only range from 0 to 1, but the information is there, trust me. I then multiply every pixel of this image with the line I drew earlier. Now this looks like a white line, but if you check the values, the more to the right a pixel is, or the stronger the spike of my distortion, the higher its value. I wanted to not distort here, so I have to offset these values so they are 0 here. If I now stretch out this information just on the x-axis, so it covers the whole image, I have something like I showed you in the beginning. And if I apply that to my pattern, it gets straightened. If I take that same information and use it on my original image though, it gets straightened as well. Not perfectly, and also only in that little area really. Since at this point I can only guess what else could have been a straight line, this is nice but also kinda hopeless. And in most other cases, it would have been hopeless. But I went through all the videos again to see if I missed any other hidden teasers, when I noticed that the same pattern was visible in different images. The very same one. In different places, horizontally, but remember, in this specific effect we have the same distortion throughout the whole line. You see, usually, especially when it's visible for more than a frame, I would animate this pattern to change over time. Look how much effort that takes me. Now every single frame of my video or movie has a unique distortion pattern. But whoever made this effect didn't. Since they only ever used the effect for 3 to 4 frames, it was just not necessary. And that means I suddenly have a lot more frames to analyze, some with perfect sharp lines. and then even some with an undistorted version of the same frame. That also gives me an accurate reference how much saturation and contrast the filter has removed from the original image. Back to the distortion though, not just do I have many straight lines, they also have a really great contrast. And the manual tracing of the lines was not really accurate, but now I can key the brightness of the pattern. This also needs some manual adjustment, but gives me a lot more precise information per line. From here I can offset the image a bit and then stencil it with the original to get that thin line I need. And from there it's the same I did earlier, just with a better result. A much better result. It's still only a portion of the image, so I did the same for a few different areas, merged the resulting noises at the end to get one complete pattern, then found out that there's a frame where I have the whole thing in one line, and that's it. At this point I also found a better solution to get rid of the line pattern. The Misfortune teaser has this really big area that I could be sure was supposed to be nearly perfect black, so I could tile this part to fill the whole image, and then simply subtract that image from mine to get rid of both the lines and this grayish haze that was put over the whole image. And there we go. If we combine those things together and apply it to any of the teaser images, we get consistent results. Is it perfect? Of course not, in part because you can never fully recover the original image, in part because I did not analyze enough frames. The result could have been improved with more information, but also in part because I was not home and had to do this on a tiny laptop without any proper graphics hardware. But to me it was a lot of fun. I loved these little hints that get us excited, and I'm sure some people at CIG are very happy about the effort we put into analyzing every little detail of the work they put into the show. Please keep doing this. I loved this year's IAE show in particular, so thank you for making it. And also a big thanks to my patrons and channel members who helped me justify putting hours of work into making blurry images slightly less blurry, even though I could just wait a few days to see the unblurry picture. Now thank you for watching and see you in the verse.